So, India's legal system has just had a massive shakeup. Today, we're going to decode the new punishment code, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or BNS for short. We'll break down exactly what's changed, what the new punishments actually mean, and maybe most importantly, how they're all going to be applied. So, are you one of the many people cramming for an exam right now? Or maybe you just want to get a handle on the huge legal shifts happening in the country? Well, either way, you're in the right place. We're going to get you completely up to speed. In this explainer, we're not just going to throw a list of new rules at you. Nope. We are handing you a complete toolkit to actually remember them, from the core punishments all the way to the little details. You'll walk away from this not just understanding the framework, but actually being able to recall it. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation. Section 4 of the BNS. You really need to think of this as the bedrock of the entire system. It lays out the 6 fundamental types of punishments that a court can hand down. The magic number here is 6. That's it. There are 6 core punishments that form the foundation of this whole code. Everything else we're going to talk about builds on these 6, so getting them down is absolutely essential. Don't worry, we'll make sure they stick. So what are they? Well, first up, you've got the most severe, the death penalty, which is reserved for those rarest of rare cases. Then there's imprisonment for life. And listen, this is a key detail. It means for the entire remainder of a person's natural life. Next is just standard imprisonment, and it comes in 2 flavors: rigorous, which means hard labor, or simple. We also have forfeiture of property, where the state can seize assets. Then a straightforward fine. And finally, the brand new one that everyone's talking about, community service. Now, let's zoom in on community service, because this one is a really big deal. The whole idea behind it is to give courts an alternative to prison for smaller crimes. Maybe ease the burden on overcrowded jails and focus a bit more on rehabilitation. It's a totally new tool that lets a judge sentence someone to do unpaid work that helps society, for things like petty theft or maybe defamation. Okay, so we have the what, those 6 punishments. Now let's get to the how, right? How are these sentences actually applied? Well, that's where the specific rules for sentencing come into play. First up, Section 5. This gives the government the power to commute a sentence, which basically means they can reduce it, like changing a death sentence to life imprisonment. Next, a really crucial technical point, especially for those of you with exams. Section 6 says that for calculation purposes, life imprisonment is treated as a 20-year term. And finally, Section 7, which gives the court the power to decide if a prison sentence is going to be rigorous, simple, or even a mix of the two. And this really lays out the difference, doesn't it? Rigorous imprisonment means hard labor, actual manual work. It's meant for more serious crimes. Simple imprisonment, on the other hand, doesn't include that hard labor and is usually for lesser offenses. It's a huge distinction in how a sentence is actually lived out. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What happens with fines? And what if one single action breaks a bunch of different laws? Well, Sections 8, 9, and 10 give us the rulebook for these trickier situations. Section 8 is pretty much all about the money. It lays out the rules for fines, what property can be used to pay them, and what happens if you don't pay, which, surprise, is usually more jail time. But check out the new part. It also brings in penalties for failing to complete your community service. This gives that new punishment some real teeth. Section 9 is all about fairness. It's designed to prevent what you might call unfair punishment stacking. So imagine one single act breaks 3 different laws. This rule says you can't just add up all 3 punishments. The final sentence can't be longer than the maximum penalty for the single most serious crime that was committed. Make sense, right? And here's another principle of fairness. Let's say the court knows you did something wrong, but it's not 100% clear which of, say, 2 or 3 specific crimes it was. That's where Section 10 comes in. It says you have to be sentenced for the crime that has the lowest punishment. It's a safeguard against being penalized for the worst-case scenario when there's still some doubt. So how on earth are you supposed to remember the rule for solitary confinement? Just look at the number. Section 11. See it? The 2 ones? They look kind of like the bars of a cell door, right? This section lets a court order solitary confinement, but with really strict limits. It's a simple little visual trick to lock that section number right into your memory. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So now, for the part I promised you, your very own BNS memory toolkit. This is how you're going to take all this info and actually make it stick, especially for those of you staring down an exam. To remember those 6 punishments in Section 4, I want you to just think of the word DIFFIC, but with an extra C at the end for our new kid on the block. So, D for death, I for imprisonment for life, F for forfeiture, another F for fine, I for imprisonment, and that final C for community service. DIFFIC-C. It's a little strange, but trust me, it works. And here it is, your cheat sheet for the rest. We can group these sections by theme to make it easier. Think of sections 5 and 6 as being about sentence adjustment. Section 7 is the type selector for jail time. Section 8 is the fine gate. Sections 9 and 10 are the multi-act rules. And of course, Section 11 is our cell door for solitary confinement. Using associations like these makes the whole structure so much easier to remember. So, to wrap it all up, if you only remember a few things, let it be these 3 biggest changes. First, the introduction of community service. Second, that key clarification that life imprisonment is calculated as 20 years for certain legal purposes. And third, the new enforcement rules that give community service orders some real backbone. These are the updates you absolutely have to know. And that leaves us with one final big thought. This introduction of community service, it's more than just a new line in a law book. It really is a potential shift in how we think about justice. So the real question is, will this new tool actually change the face of justice for minor offenses across India? I guess only time will tell.